Welcome, everyone, to the first Harris Real Estate University Superstar interview of 2012. Now, we are obviously going to continue the Superstar interview series for 2012, and as Julie said, the Superstar interviews happen live every Friday with the few exceptions of when Julie and I are traveling or there's a holiday or something of that nature. So what are the Superstar interviews? That's something that I still get questions about, which is great because it tells me that there's a lot of agents out there that are not yet taking advantage of this free training. Superstar interviews are one of three things, and usually a little bit of all of these three things, actually. The first thing that they are sometimes we interview a famous author or maybe a budding author, someone who I think is going to have an influence on your real estate practice. In the past, we've interviewed, as a lot of you know, economists. We've interviewed some people that weren't necessarily in the real estate space, but they still had something influential or impactful to say. And I have to say some of those interviews we've done with people that are outside of the real estate space, as it were some of the best interviews we've done just simply for the fact that it expanded your thinking and caused you to really think outside of the box. And those are always great, and I'm looking forward to providing more of those for you this year as well. The second type of interview that Julie and I provide isn't really an interview. It's more of an instructions class or a motivational class. Sometimes from our week's worth of work at Harris Real Estate University, we hear from the coaches that we're getting agents that are having this issue or that issue, and it's usually around organization or motivation or being overwhelmed. A lot of students join Harris Real Estate University, and they take on more listings than they've ever taken on before. They essentially get busy, and they've never been that busy before, so they don't really know what to do next, so we might do an organizational call. Maybe mid-year we have a motivational call. It really just depends on whatever you guys need, we deliver. And then the third type of Superstar interviews, which are really great, which students really love, are the types that we are doing today, and that's when we interview a fellow realtor, someone who's really doing fantastic, someone who really has something to share. And I have to say, I had a pre-call with today's Superstar, who is Mr. Tyler Smith from Keller Williams yesterday, and it went about 10 times longer than my normal pre-calls just because I was having so much fun on the pre-call. In other words, Tyler and I had a really great conversation about a lot of different topics because Tyler is a really great dynamic guy. So without any further delay, I want to introduce to all of you listeners who are listening now and who are listening in the future in replay, Mr. Tyler Smith from Keller Williams. Welcome to the call, Tyler.
Hey, thanks a lot. Appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks, man. So let's get started with the basic questions. Where do you sell real estate?
Folsom, California. It's really, a lot of people say, where's Folsom? I'd say Sacramento, California, Northern California, what we call heaven.
Gotcha. Yeah, Folsom. So can you do a favor? You're a little bit hard to hear. So if you could just maybe, I don't know if you're on a cell phone or if you could maybe turn the volume up or the headset up or whatever. That'd be great.
How about now? Is that better? Can you hear me now?
That's a little bit better. I'm just reading the comments in the webinar. Some of them have said that you're a little bit hard to hear. Speaking of the webinar, guys, Tyler and I are going to be covering a lot of ground today, talking about a lot of lead generation things of that nature. You're going to have questions. Enter those questions into the webinar box that's right there on the upper left side of your screen, and those will be the questions I'll use with Tyler towards the end of the call. I've got a bunch of prepared questions, things I know you're going to want to hear. So you are up in that part of California. What's the market like? I mean, obviously we hear about California every day in the news about how it's crashed and all the rest of it, but what's actually happening in your market?
Well, just in the last year, we've seen a decrease about 11%, but overall it's down from obviously where we were in 2005 and 2006, which everyone was, but we lost quite a bit of value. Folsom does hold its value a little bit harder, a little bit stronger than what we call Sacramento, but we are in Sacramento County. So for the most part, we're in a lower market, a lot of REO short sales, HUD homes, and very little equity sales, but there are still some out there.
All right, gotcha. So you have been selling real estate for how long?
I think I'm going on year 7. I'm 28 now, and I think I started when I was 20, so I just turned 28, so about 7 years ago.
So you sold in your marketplace during the bubble. I mean, you kind of got not really your start because you've been selling for 7 years, but almost got your start right at the point when the bubble was really, really getting ready to pop. I mean, so 7 years ago, that would have been like 2005. So, yeah, you had all the benefit of the bubble, if you want to call it a benefit. That must be pretty shocking going from that to this.
I wouldn't say I really had the bubble. I mean, my first 2 years I was 20. I looked like I was 10. So, I mean, I really wasn't selling much real estate. I mean, I just got a business card and thought, hey, why aren't people calling me? I should be selling homes. And I figured out after 2 years of struggling in real estate that, hey, you have to go out there and prospect and market and be creative and work. And so my first 2 years during the bubble really wasn't a bubble for me. It wasn't good at all. I sold, I think, in 2 years less than 10 homes or 6 homes within those 2 years. So.
Well, that's interesting, actually. Then, so if I'm scaling this forward correctly, then about 2007, that's when you started actually getting your act together and selling a decent number of homes. Is that about right?
That's correct. Yeah, I started getting an accountability partner, and I started really working my business like a business. All the things you read in the seminars and the books, I actually, instead of just reading it and not applying it, I actually applied it. I'd say after about 2 years, because I really needed to make some changes. So
I'm going to ask you a question. And Tyler and I are working off prepared questions that you guys can see on the blog Real Estate Insider News. But I'm going to ask Tyler a question that I haven't prepared, but because it's very interesting. So you said you went from basically just being an information sponge to an information applier. So you just said something that's crucial, critical, that I hope everyone listens to. You weren't just you went from just going to the seminars, reading the books, like you said, and then you switched over to being someone that was really good at applying the information and taking action. I want to know the best you can recollect, and, it's possible that you have no clue how to answer this question. What was the trigger moment that caused you to go from just the person gathering information to the person taking action?
I mean, the biggest motivation was obviously money. I mean, how I got into real estate, which I know I'm jumping a little bit ahead, but I bought my first house when I was 19. So when I bought my first house at 19, by the time that I was 21, which was about 2 years after real estate, 21 going on 22, I was like, wow, I have a mortgage. I was serving restaurants to make, money to fund my real estate career, because as you know, real estate, you don't try real estate out, it tries you out. So those first 2 years, I was motivated because, one, I was going from commission check to commission check to commission check. And so I said, I've got to make some changes. So I'd say that was the motivation, because I had a mortgage at 22. I had a mortgage at 19.
Well, there you just said it. Yeah, well, so I think you're hitting on it now. Basically, you had gotten to the point where you had to. It was no longer an option.
Yeah. Well, I could have got a regular job, or could have, said, okay, I'm going to just go back to full-time serving. But I said, hey, I'm going to really go with this. I'm going to get an accountability partner. I'm going to really, really push hard, and I'm going to set some goals. I'm going to hit them, and I'm very good at tracking them. So I tracked them, and I tried to hit them. And I'd say that was when I saw my business really, really, start to transform.
Well, why, Tyler, though? I mean, if you can take yourself back, 5 years ago, why? Why you? What was it that you did? What was the experience you had? What was the thought that you had? What was the, did you surround yourself with a different kind of people? Did you read a book? What was it that really triggered you to decide to get your act together and go to the next level?
Well,
and then if you can remember what it is, let me know so I can put it in a bottle and sell it, because that's what I want everyone to have.
Well, I said the real thing was, I've always you hear from people, take someone successful out to lunch, and I've read that in numerous books, and I've read that, everywhere I go, take someone successful. So I said, I'm going to take, the top realtors out in Sacramento County. I'm going to find out what they do. Everyone, I would say most successful people don't mind sharing. And if they don't want to share, I probably don't want to talk to them anyways. But most successful people don't mind sharing. So I'd take them out. I'd look up on the MLS and say, who are the top hitters? And I'd just call them, try to be humble. And, hey, I remember my spiel back then. It was, hey, I'm 22. I'm young. I'm full of energy. I really, really want to know if I can take you to coffee and just pick your brain. You're the superstar of the world. You kind of talk them up and, boost their ego a little bit. At the same time, you look humble and you want to just really, really, find out what's going on. And so when you take them out to lunch or coffee, I took them out to coffee because I didn't have money for lunch. So what I do is I set a set of questions, which, what advice would you give me? I'm young. What one thing do you see bad with failures I can run into? Do you have a coach? Do you have a mentor? Do you have an accountability partner? I asked them tons of questions. Some people, they'd have to kick me out hey, kid, I got to go, because I'll sit there and soak up as much information as I can. But that's what I did. I sought out the top 5 realtors in Sacramento County.
Okay, well, this is really good. And so what were the questions? You mentioned some of the questions that you asked them, and I'm curious, what were their answers? So you just rattled off a bunch of questions. Maybe, Tyler, let me reframe it so that it would be easier to answer. What were the common answers? You must have found that probably 99% of them answered 99% of, the 5 people you interviewed, that they answered the questions probably almost identically, I would assume.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there was pros and cons. I mean, some of them, hey, well, you're really young. It's like, I guess I would say I'm a very aggressive person. So I'd say, hey, come on. I took you all the way out here for coffee. I'm looking for some really deep answers. I know you can give me something more than. They'd look at me like, who is this guy? But I'm not a big, go out there and call and door knock and do this and you're done. I mean, there's got to be more to it. So, they'd say get a farm and work that farm. And I'm like, I've heard all that. I've read all that. I mean, you don't get your business from a farm. If you were going to start over today, what would you do to get business? And that was my biggest thing. If I wanted business tomorrow, what advice would you give to me? Because I need a business now. I need a business right away. And I didn't want to know, go out there and farm. I mean, I got to go, get labels, and I have to go get postcards, and I have to go do all this stuff. That's not now business, and I wanted now.
All right, well, then answer the question. Okay, you have potentially with people listening again, you have potentially thousands of people taking you out to coffee right now, and they just asked you that question, and they framed it just like you did. They don't have time to putz around. They want results now. They don't want to have to go buy labels. I like how you said it. They don't have to go buy become a little mini print shop, right? So, they don't have to buy so much crap that they're going to be giving to their past customers and centers of influence that's going to sit around their offices to the point where they're going to have so much stuff they're going to have a little goat paths just to get around their office. That takes too long.
Right.
So you answer the question. If someone, you're sitting across from thousands of people right now, not to make you nervous, and they're going to ask you that question. I don't have time to, experiment. Tell me the real secret, if it were, as to how I can make money now in real estate. What would it be? I mean, that's kind of the question you were asking your mentors, wasn't it?
Yeah, and it's a great question. One of my new buyer's agents just asked me that, what can I do now? I told them, hey, there's no secrets here. What you need to do, you need to go out and you need to find the best hot listing on the market. You need to be aggressive with that listing agent, even if they're not or in your office, and you need to hold that house open. And you don't need to hold it open. The problem is that if I was going to get business right now, I'd go hold the hottest house open. Everyone wants to go, well, I want to go hold up the $4 million home or the $3 million home. No, I don't want to do that. I need money now. And yes, it'd be nice to sell a $4 million home, but how many buyers are going to be at a $4 million home or a $1 million home? It's limited on buyers, one. And two, really, most buyers looking at a home that expensive, most have a buyer's agent. So I wanted to go to, maybe a medium-sized home, a $250,000 home, and just so you know, the numbers make sense, our average price in Folsom is around $300,000, $320,000. So I'd go for a little bit lower because I knew that would be first-time home buyers, and I was young, and I can probably work with first-time home buyers. But that's what I did. So when they told me that, I went out, I found the hottest properties, and I held them open. I held them open for 4 days in a row. No joke, 4 days in a row, I was prepared. I put over 20 signs out. I put balloons out. I knocked the neighborhood before the open house. I knocked the neighborhood after the open house. I wanted to invite everyone there, and that's kind of how I started to get now business. So that's what I just told one of my buyer's agents to do. Go out there, and you need to find the hottest property out there, the hottest property, because if it's an old listing, it's not going to be there. You need to find something that's underpriced, that's on a great traffic property to get traffic, because that's how you're going to generate.
And FSBOs and expireds and things of that nature. But you're absolutely right. I mean, what I heard you say was go after some AAA motivated buyers, and you can enhance this too. I want to pull some things out, everyone who's listening now. You guys, he said something really important. He did not say go after some luxury priced real estate. And if you were listening, you heard him say it's because chances are those sellers have a buyer's agent that they're working with already known as the listing agent. So what you want to be doing is you want to go after the lesser priced first-time buyer type prices. There's for every one buyer in a more expensive price range, there's going to be 20 in the lesser expensive price ranges. You also heard him say choose the best, and I'm going to put quotes around this, less expensive, best first-time home buyer house that you can find for sale anywhere in your MLS. Beg, borrow, and steal that listing agent's permission to hold it open. I love that you said that. That's really crucial. It's a great idea. And, be prepared for financing questions. Be prepared for other, houses for sale questions. Be prepared for the open house. Put out tons of signs. don't just sit there on your butt and play Farmville during the open house. Actually engage with people. And you'll find a lot of people that are coming out of being renters, a lot of people that don't have any sort of relationships with other realtors. And buyers, here's the magical thing about buyers. Generally speaking, in the lesser expensive price ranges, there's not a lot to pick from, not a lot of nice stuff to pick from anyway. And those first-time buyers are just glad to buy a house. Those first-time buyers also, guess what, guys? Those are 30-day paychecks for the most part. You know, once you get your skill set up, you can generally sell them in 3 trips or less. And when you do that, you get paid in 30 days. I think that's really sound advice. And that gets you a financial floor to kind of take your business to the next level and explore other avenues of income. Anything else come to mind? You know, it's funny, Julie just IM'd me and said this is an old school conversation that we're having right now. But you know what? It works, doesn't it?
Well, it does. I mean, you take the old school way and you have to put new school on it of, you know, I'm not going to go, and I did that in the beginning. I'd go, I want to we have a nice luxury area called Granite Bay. I'm like, I want to hold an open house in Granite Bay. It's like, that's what everyone tends and wants to do. That's what I wanted to do. So what I did was I said, you know, I have to change that. And how I have to change that is I have to really, really, really make sure I'm using the highest and best use of my time, which was, hey, my goal is to get leads. My goal is to get now business, and I'm not going to have to, you know, wait for people to come in. I want a ton of people to come in, and the only way to do that is to do it off of a lower price home or a hot property. And, you know, it necessarily doesn't have to be a really low home. It just has to be a brand new, hot listing that you know is a good deal, that you feel comfortable talking up to people, because that's what you really have to go for.
I mean, let's drill down on what we're talking about, because I know you and I are saying the same thing. Not a condo, because condos, generally speaking, are going to have too many issues with regards to, I mean, it depends on the condo, but generally speaking, it can't be a condo because it's going to be too hard to park, and there might be a, you know, hassle getting into the complex. Not an area with a gate. You know, don't do it with an area with a gate, because no gate. Ideally, not on a busy road. You know, use some brain power here. Don't choose the perfect first-time buyer house. When you're flipping through the MLS, you're going to find, and I don't care what part of the country you're in, the houses that are selling the fastest are going to be the houses that are in that first-time buyer price range. Choose the best. Like if you were to choose one for yourself, you were to choose one for your best friend, you were to choose one to buy as an investment, and that's the one you hold open. Generally speaking, most listing agents won't have an issue with you helping them out and holding it open. You know, so just keep that in mind. Now, to plus this idea, if you guys want to take it to the next level and you have a little bit of money to spend on advertising, or if you want to do something in Craigslist, which doesn't cost you anything, you want to attach an IVR, which I'm sure that Tyler knows about, onto that listing and then advertise it. You know, you can use 1-800-HOME-HOTLINE.com. And obviously that'll get you, generally speaking, if you run an ad with a 800 number from 800-HOME-HOTLINE.com, for every 1 call you'll get 5. So, guys, the information is out there. You know, Tyler and I could talk about how to make money now the rest of the hour, but a lot of you want to hear about Tyler's huge growth in REOs, and I want to move the ball forward here. So, Tyler, let's move the conversation forward. I think we've motivated a lot of people, at least I hope we have. Julie, I hope you're monitoring the questions because I haven't looked in a while.
I'm on it. No worries.
So, Tyler, let's talk specifically about you and your team. You guys sold close to 200 houses last year, correct?
That's correct.
170? Yeah. So
174, yeah.
174. And what's your business plan? Because you sent me your business plan. What's your business plan call for 2012?
2012, yeah, I think I sent you a 2010 if I remember right, or 2011. It says at the bottom. But 2012, you know, we're looking to get on with more REO accounts, with more.
Well, in terms of units, Tyler, how many houses do you plan on selling this year? How many?
We don't about 160. That's our goal. 160 as a team.
That's curious.
Personally,
so
I need
sold
to
100. Okay.
Go ahead.
Well, so fewer houses this year than last. That's your business plan.
My business plan is to do less because I worked so hard, but my team to do more. So that's what I want to do personally is right there, 160. That's what I want to do. As a team, we need to do over 200 units. Okay,
gotcha. All right, so you know someone just asked a great question. This is sort of random, but I'll ask it. How, as far as the 30 under 30 with National Association of Realtors, obviously that's probably the most competitive thing that you know you have in the country right now amongst realtors trying to get that recognition. Someone asked, how did you get it? That was the question.
Well, it's called the Realtor Magazine. They do something every year. It's the top 30 under 30 in the country, so the top 30 under the age of 30. And what you do is you first have to apply, and I applied the last 2 years and didn't make it. And the last 2 years were great years for me as well. But they have a long list of criteria that they go off of, and they just don't go off of units. They just don't go. They go off of a 12-point checklist of a lot of different things: community service, involvement, why are you different, all of those things. So I applied. They called me for an interview. I did an interview. I had to send in some video reels. I'm a pretty animated person. If you know me or if you hear me on the phone, so I think I was a little bit different. I guess I was weird. I always told my assistant I want to make enough money where they don't call me weird, they call me eccentric. But yeah, I think that's why they chose me, because based upon their checklist, I was hitting all of those items. And I think I finally got it after the third year of going, hey, why am I not making this? And I actually really delved in and saw, okay, how can I set myself apart? Because they're a magazine, they're a publishing company, they have to sell a story, and if I'm boring, it's not going to sell, even though everyone gets it. But I'm not gonna be in the magazine if I'm a boring person. So I had to, beef some things up, I guess.
Yeah,
but I mean,
cool. I like it. Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, the bottom line is that you didn't get it the first time. I like how you said that, Tyler. And then you didn't get the second time. It's like the Abraham Lincoln story, when he was running for president. But you got it the third time. You didn't give up. And, of course, you were running out of time. You could have turned 30, and then it would have been all too late, but at least you made it.
Exactly. Well, I'm like, if I don't get it this year, I'm like, if I don't get it this year, am I going to apply next year? What's going on?
The pressure. All right, so back to our question. So your primary sources of business are?
Referral-based. So just to tell you how my business is ran, I only represent sellers. So I have buyer's agents that represent the buyers, but I primarily focus on sellers. So if we're just talking about sellers, I would say my primary business is repeat business. So we get repeat business, people who do have equity and short sales, and then also REO and HUD, homes, bank-owned properties. So that is the primary source of my listing business. Now, my buyer's agents get fed leads, and they get fed business based upon all of my listings and based upon their own lead generation, because they have a commitment and a contract with me of what they have to do. So
I'm going to head these questions off the pass since you mentioned buyer agents. How many do you have? These weren't part of our questions, so let's just burn through these. How many do you have working for you?
3 buyer's agents. 4 buyer's agents.
How do you pay them? You knew I was going to ask. How do you pay them?
They're all 1099, and they're all in a split, different splits depending on volume and splits upon how long they've been with me and things like that. Okay,
good. And do you provide them? Do you guarantee them a certain number of leads per month, or how does that work?
Yeah, it's in their contracts of guarantees of a certain amount of leads. I mean, I think in my one gal's niche it says 25 leads a month, but we exceed that. That's easy to do more than 25 leads a month. So we give them leads when they come on brand new. They have a 90-day trial period of, hey, we don't want to just give you leads and you don't know how to handle them. We want to make sure they're following our systems. We have a lead incubator system where it comes in and it sits there and it goes onto a drip and it does all these things. And we want to make sure that our buyer's agents fully understand and know how to handle a lead, opposed to me just giving it to somebody brand new and them, not following up like they should. I'm all about follow-up, because the more and more and more you follow up and persistent, the more you're going to sell. So.
Perfect. All right, good. So in your best lead generators, now I know you're doing a lot with REOs and such, but aside from that, just to pick up, say, a short sale business or non-distressed business, what are your best lead generators? We talked before about some of the old school free stuff. Is there anything else that you're working, let me frame this question like every agent wants to hear it. What is the one thing that you're doing that you would never want to share with your closest, most competitive competitor because you wouldn't want them to copy it because it works so well?
Which I'm going to now. Okay, wonderful. Okay. So I'll give you something that's a great idea. I got this from actually somebody else that I met down in Chicago, another great agent, a top agent. And he said, he goes, what do you do to get leads for short sales? I said, well, you can do the NODs, you can mail the NODs, all the typical stuff. I said, what do you do? He goes, think about this. He said he puts an ad in Craigslist. He taught me this, and I use this all the time, and it's a great, great feature. He puts an ad in Craigslist, and he said, and in the newspaper it says, get paid to exercise. Call me. And people call me and it says senior citizens. Now, I'm not saying you have to use senior citizens. A lot of people will do this, but he finds and he goes and posts things in senior citizens, like the communities, and they're not senior citizens really. Some of them are just 65 plus communities, and I don't know what they're called anymore, but they're 65 plus retirement communities. And he'll go post it in their clubhouse. Get paid to walk. Then he'll say, hey, I'm going to pay you 10 cents or 5 cents a door, and you're going to hang these door hangers on every single door. And how many can you do a day? And they're walking, and they would have been walking anyways, and they're putting things on doors. And it's a phenomenal resource because they're putting on things of, hey, are you upside down in your house? Well, 80%, 90% of people are upside down at their house. So, are you upside down in your house? Call and see how we can help you short sell, blah, 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 blah. And it's this great door hanger that we use. And they go around and they walk and they put them on the houses. And what's great is these, the 65 plus, or some of them are senior citizens. What's great is they like you, one, because you pay them and because you're helping them out, but two, they like you and they refer you. So they'll be like, hey, you should talk to this person here. They said they want to talk to you, and they're talking you up, and they're getting leads for you, and you give them a bonus on if they give you a hot lead. And that's a great way to have somebody go and put things on doors in an inexpensive way, unless you have a kid on rollerblades, which I don't. So I have to go with.
Tyler, I'm going to just kind of give you an insight here. You've done enough of these interviews. You know what I'm probably about to say, but a lot of the things you're going to hear Tyler talk about, guys, are just basically variations of ideas that are out there. But the difference between Mr. Tyler Smith and really every other superstar we've ever interviewed, the difference is they've taken action. And that's the reason I asked Tyler that question at the top of the call. That's what my takeaway was from my pre-call with Tyler yesterday. This guy is not complacent. This guy is not, here's the word, lazy. He's actually taking action every day. So these ideas, a lot of the things that he and I are talking about, if you guys have been in the game for a while, you may have been exposed to some of these, but have you done anything with them? Have you done anything with them consistently? Have you tweaked them for your market? Have you actually implemented them, or do you have boxes of stuff from your entire real estate career that you intended to do in order to generate business? Or, maybe scripts posted on your wall that are just essentially there for decoration at this point? Or are you actually implementing? The difference is Tyler takes action. The difference is Tyler is implementing. So I hope you guys are realizing that it's not just about the idea. The idea is nothing. It has no value. The action that follows it is where the money's at every single time. And you don't need a bunch of deep, dark secrets. You just need to get off your collective butts, especially this time of year, guys, and take action. If you're in any of our classes, I know there's lots of you listening, so I can assume that a certain percent are not in Harris Real Estate University, but those of you who are students, just in the short sale class alone, ideas like what he's sharing with you, we give you close to 50 of these ideas already done for you. The ads are already done. The copy's already written. If you want to mail postcards, that's already done. Craigslist ads already written for you. Business plans, someone asked that. Go to realestatetreasuremap.com. In other words, take the action. You guys who think you need more ideas, you don't need more ideas. You need more action. So I think that's something that's really important that people get into their heads. Next question all right, so as far as lead generators, we talked about that. So you're a strong proponent of delegation. Obviously, that's something that is, you have to delegate. But the question is, Tyler, is when to delegate. You started out, you had a couple years of struggling. You started figuring things out. You decided to take more action and did, some really great ideas, implemented them. At what point did you hire your first assistant?
I hired my first assistant before I actually could probably afford my first assistant, just because I knew that if I got an assistant, it would push me to not do paperwork, and I knew that if I'm doing paperwork, then I'm not going to be successful. I just knew it. I just knew that. Guess what? What happens is when you get a deal, you do all the paperwork, and you're going, you're getting the inspections, you're putting out the fire, you're doing this, you're doing that, and next thing you know, you're like, it closed, and you're like, I got a prospect for the next deal. What's going on? And I knew that if I'm going to get caught up in, let's just say the drama of the deal or the paperwork of the deal or anything I shouldn't be doing, I'm not going to be a super agent, or I'm not going to be able to do a lot of volume. I wanted to do a lot of volume. I made that decision up. I said, hey, I want to do a lot of volume. I don't want to do a little. I don't want to do medium. I want to do a lot. In order to do a lot, I need an assistant. And so I hired an assistant when I really could not afford it, but I knew it would push me to work to pay that payroll. So that's what I did. So I did it beforehand, which I would say for me it worked, and I like that model because in my mindset it's like, okay, I gotta work harder to make sure I can pay this person to make sure that we can build up a business here. And so that's when I hired my first assistant. And I wasn't doing a ton of volume, but I was doing enough volume where I knew that if she can take some work off of my load, I can really spend more time focusing on what I needed to do, which was lead generation.
All right, so I'm going to point something out for everyone that's listening. I hope you guys are paying attention. He said a couple things on this call, and I'm going to put them in front of you so you guys can understand how he keeps himself motivated. Tyler, and I'm not saying, and he said it too, this is not for everybody, but what Tyler does is he puts himself under pressure financially. That's what he uses to motivate himself. He creates, another old school term, a good old-fashioned have to. Tyler makes it so that he doesn't have a choice but to actually produce and force himself to go to the next level. You heard him talk about that. He had a house payment. You heard him talk. That was one of the catalysts that really forced him to decide that he's going to set aside the consistent regular income he was getting from being a great waiter, okay? And then he decided, well, you know what, this isn't good enough. Yeah, I have a house payment. I have other expenses I have to meet. So what he did, and he still is doing, I imagine, is he put the cart before the horse, and he's used that to motivate himself. Now, obviously, at some point, that's going to start working against him, but I talked with Tyler yesterday, and he's smart enough to know that he's building net worth and he's building assets at this point. But, guys, a good old-fashioned have-to, there is nothing wrong with that. A lot of you have built-in have-tos. You have, bills you have to pay. You have credit cards you have to pay off. You have kids' tuition you have to come up with. You know what? That should be a great motivator for you to do some things that might make you a little bit uncomfortable, and there's nothing wrong with that. So just keep that in mind. I mean, Tyler is a consistent top producer, one of the top agents in the country, and how does he keep himself motivated? How did he keep himself motivated? Creating stress in himself. So that's a good idea. All right. Next point, next question. Anything come to mind at this point? You want to take a little? I'm sure I know you well enough to know, Tyler, that you've had probably a lot of random thoughts. Anything that you can think of to go ahead.
No random. I have a lot of random thoughts, but you know me, I speak quick, so I think quick. So they're probably gone by now. So don't worry about it.
All right, no problem. All right. Okay, so let's talk about REOs. When did you take your first REO? Well, you know what? When did you take your first REO, and how long ago was it? And kind of just give us an overview of how you went about getting your first REO.
My first REO was somebody said, hey, you should talk to, at the time now it's Bank of America, but Countrywide, you should talk to this lender. This lender can probably get you in. And actually, to take a step forward, Wells Fargo approached me for REOs, and I'm like, I didn't even know what an REO was at the time. I'm looking at them, it's like, I have to rekey somebody's property, and I have to carry expenses. I'm like, this looks like property management. And I literally turned down the application. I didn't even understand. I didn't know what an REO was. And, after I was kicking myself in the butt going, yeah, come on, what are you doing here, buddy? So I turned down Wells Fargo, my very first account I could have had. But from there, I got on with the lender yeah, I know. So then I got on with the lender from Countrywide. He says, I can get you in, but you've got to refer me business. And do you have a business plan? And we want to make sure you have a business plan and, that you have money to hold over because there are carrying costs. And I said, yeah, totally, definitely. Here's a P&L. I do a P&L. I'm very diligent, and I was very, very into doing a P&L, doing my goals, doing my average sales price. And this lender was impressed. He pushed me on to a gal named Marion Reap, who she's not there anymore, but and she said, hey, we're going to put you on. And they gave me my first REO. It was in Citrus Heights, and it was a dump. And I literally still didn't know what an REO was. I said, oh, yeah, I've sold REOs forever, and I didn't at the time. I didn't even know what it was. And they gave me this property. They said to go do an occupancy check. And I walked in, and I'm like, do I need a cop? Do I need a gun? What's going on here? It wasn't in the greatest neighborhood. And I walk in, and it's trashed. I mean, they pulled the toilets off and had concrete down the toilet drains. They were so mad. And I'm like, what did I get myself into? And from there, they trashed it out. We put it on the market, and it sold in like 2 days. And I'm like, whoa, that was crazy. From there, I just learned it myself and literally learned it myself. And so from there, we did one, and I did some things to make my asset manager very happy where she referred me more business, and then she referred me to another asset manager, and we'll get into that later, I'm assuming, on how I, kind of made it that effect of, duplicating, triplicating, multiplying your asset managers. But that was my first REO. That's when I got onto it, and that was about 4 years ago.
I love how you, I'll throw another term out there, you faked it until you made it. You know, in other words, basically he figured out along the way he wasn't taking the time to try to be a master at something before he actually, you know, implemented it. He jumped into the deep end. There's all kinds of different ways of saying it. So those of you who are out there who are more analytical bent, who like to memorize and internalize and, you know, all the rest of it, before you actually get into action, do it the exact opposite and learn on the job. That's what Tyler,
Well, Tim, sorry to jump in on you here, but I was thinking, you know, I have never at all on any of this call heard Tyler say I can't or I couldn't or I had to do this first or I had to figure that out first. He just did it. Took action.
Yeah, it kind of reminds you of our start, Julie, when we got into real estate 20 years ago and we sold 104 houses our first year.
We didn't know what we were doing either.
We didn't know what we were doing. I remember when we were driving around, we had our licenses. I don't think the ink was dry yet. This is when we were in our early 20s. And we bought a house when we were like 22 and 23. We were married in college. And I remember we had a buyer in the car, and he said, I'll buy that house. And, like, I didn't even know how to write a contract. But you know what?
We didn't even have a key to the office yet.
We got paid.
I remember the first closing, they asked for the termite report, and I actually said, well, why would you want that? So we did a termite report on the spot. Anyway,
yeah.
I digress.
The point is, I digressed about 20 years. The point is, guys, is that you have to take action. That is where you move forward. That is how you become successful and learn on the job. That is why Bank of America sent him the property like he did. They intentionally sent him something to see if he could handle it, and he obviously did. So, Tyler, REOs in your business, how important, how crucial, critical of a part of your business is REOs now? Are you just strictly an REO listing agent?
Yeah, no, I do. Like I said, I do have repeat business, so I have people who refer me with obviously the national recognition I've gotten. I get people who call and go, hey, can you help my mom's grandma sell her house or whatever. So I do represent all sellers, whether it's REO to short sell to traditional sell to even government sell. All of them will do. I mean, investors will say, hey, I bought a portfolio. We have 20 properties. Can you sell them? And you do all the evictions and everything. And so we'll coordinate all that stuff for them. So I represent sellers. I'm great with sellers.
Okay, good. So, I mean, how many of your listings do you have right now? What is your active inventory? You know what? Include pre-marketing too.
Oh, pre-marketing too? I can give you that number right off the top of my head. I pulled my numbers for the Metro list, like what's in MLS, which is we have 38 right now active. But pre's lower than normal. It's probably around 30, 35, something like that.
How many different asset manager relationships do you have right now? In other words, how many are actively sending you assets?
I'd say actively there's probably 10, but I'd say there's really 4 core, relationships that really, really, really help us out and give us a lot of property just because we do a good job and we've articulated it, and we do a lot of different things to really maintain and build our relationships with our asset managers.
For example?
A couple of things. Give an example. One thing we do is we'll go down. I went down to Texas. I said, hey, you know what? I'm going to do a lunch and learn. I'm going to tell you about our market. And so at the time, Litton's been acquired now, and they've outsourced. But at the time, Litton Loan Servicing, I said, hey, I'm going to come down. We're going to do lunch and learn. So I'm going to come down. I'm going to tell you guys, because I had at one point one asset manager there. They gave me one property. I really, really maintained that relationship. I said, hey, I've always asked for more business. I've done a great job. I've held my team to very, very high standards, very, very high standards. And myself and my team, we do what it takes to make sure it runs as flawless as possible. So with that, he referred me to another person, and that person referred me to another person. And at that time, I had 6 different asset managers within just Litton alone that I was doing great work for. You go and you do lunch and learn, saying, hey, let me tell you for my 6 asset managers, let me tell you what's going on in my market. Let me tell you what we're facing. Let me tell you what we're facing as a problem. The cash for keys is taking too long to get out, or these days, how can we shorten our cash for keys days? How can we minimize our expenses? How can we do X, Y, and Z? So that's what we did, and I'd go down there and do lunch and learns. It just builds and maintains the relationship. I do things like, you know how people usually send like a regular handwritten note like, hey, Tim, it was great seeing you. Glad that you're able to help me and give me this asset. Looking forward to working with you, blah, 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 Tim or Tyler. What we do is that's just a personal note. It's great. Everyone loves getting a personal note. I still love when I get personal notes. I save a lot of personal notes for motivation. But what we do is we go and we would send them, let's just say, a 3-foot by 4-foot letter. And it's like you can buy them online. I'll give Tim, I'll give you the website to buy them if you want.
If you know it off the top of your head, just give it now. Otherwise, I have to answer as the IMs and
I don't. Sorry, I don't.
Okay, no problem. Just email it to me. I'll put it on the blog. Yeah. Yeah,
but what it is, it's a huge letter. Imagine a letter. I'm 6 foot. Imagine a letter half the size of me and kind of wide. And imagine, the asset manager getting a call going, hello, it's like on the front desk, oh, we have a big package here for you. It's like, what's this package? They go, it looks like a big piece of cardboard in an envelope, and you open it up, it's a card. It says, hey, thanks to the business. It's something different. It's the same thing that everyone's doing, but it's just on a bigger level. It's just going to make them remember me. So you always want to tailor things. I took what I did in my residential regular business when I represented buyers, then I just applied it towards my sellers and put it on steroids pretty much. So, I mean, that's one of many things that we do to impress people. The lunch and learns, the pizza boxes with my pizza head on, which I sent you that. You should have that.
Yeah, talk about them. That's a fun idea. Talk about that.
So I learned this actually from my ex-girlfriend's father, and he's like, I need to boost my business, and he owns a large company, doing very successful. And he goes, what do you think about this idea? So he goes, I'm going to send out to get business a pizza box to all my clients, and I'm going to put my photo on it. And I'm like, oh, let's take that and twist it a little bit. So what we do is we do lunch and learns, but we also to make us look, make us stand out. You send out a pizza. So imagine getting a pizza. Let's just imagine you're trying to get business for somebody, and you send out a pizza box, and it doesn't say Round Table or Pizza Hut. It literally is a picture of you with a chef hat, like a cartoon chef hat. It looks kind of goofy, and I'm kind of a goofy guy, so I wanted to kind of, match my personality. And a lot of people think, oh, well, that's too goofy. That's not who I am. It's like, well, they don't want to see boring. They want to see, they want to see something different. If you go all dressed in a suit and says like, hi, give me REOs or something, it's not going to work. You have to tailor it. So it's a picture of me, and I don't know if they can see this or not, Tim, but it's a picture of me with a cartoon chef hat, and it's on the pizza box. It covers the entire pizza box, so you don't even see Pizza Hut's logo or Round Table's logo. It looks like it's my custom pizza box, and it's a sticker. And I got 50 of them for $22 or something like that. I had my web designer design it, and you stick it on. We did this with buyers. So when a buyer closed on a house, I worked out a deal with my local pizza company. I said, hey, you're going to put my sticker on this, and I'm going to always buy pizza through you. And on closing day, on move-in day, you're going to deliver pizza to my clients. I'm going to pay you, and here's my card. You're just going to run it whenever I call you. Well, I tailored that to asset managers and said, hey, I'm going to do lunch and learns. I'm going to have the pizza boxes, or I'm going to do, send and try to get business for pizza boxes and things like that. So that's what we did. We did that with pizza boxes. We did that with Chipotle with our own foil that had the Smith team on there with our own chicken sticker, and it had me looking with a chicken hat on. It's kind of goofy, but it gets people's attentions, and they're like, wow. And if you're that creative doing that, they're going to think, wow, what other skills does he have? And you don't want to give them all your skills. You want to give them a little piece by piece by piece to keep them loving life along the journey,
Well, it's interesting. I'm thinking actually about Mark Chandro. He runs our private REO VIP class, and he did I think 2 weeks ago. I know you've probably done this or heard of this, but he provided a luxury, wasn't a limo, but it was one of these really fancy Mercedes-Benz rental. Yeah, exactly. And then he drove around someone for Fannie Mae. He basically had the Fannie Mae Countrywide, and I think there's 2 asset management companies that were coming down to look at their assets. And so he was thinking, well, I have to set up 2 trips. I have to get my car detailed. I'm going to drive them around. They're going to be in the back seat. And so we brainstormed. It was a simple idea, really, nothing to overly celebrate. But why not throw them all on a bus, have a driver, obviously, so Mark could focus on, answering questions and giving them information. And what he did was they sent a list ahead of time of the properties that they wanted to check out. That I think he embellished the list and added some other houses to the journey. And these were houses that he knew that other REO listing agents in his marketplace were taking particularly poor care of. And generally speaking, those are going to translate into reassignments for him. And another idea, he went to a conference, And on the door, Mark, I know you're listening to this interview now. You're going to have to IM me to remind me what the heck it was. Before the event, he got a list of all the asset managers, and then he hung something on their door or had the receptionist, when they checked in, gave them something. I don't remember what it was, but it was another great idea, and they all sought him out during the event. They sought him out, Tyler, to thank him for it, and it was something they could use during the event. So, Mark, if you're listening, please IM me and remind me what it was that we thought of for that particular application. But the point of it is, and really the point of all this is you don't have to spend a lot of money, and all Tyler's trying to do is say, hey, listen, I am different, just give me a shot. All he's trying to do, it's like a commercial basically. He's trying to get their attention for just a few seconds, and when they do, he knows they're going to like what they find. He knows that they're going to like his resume, they're going to like his track record, they're going to like, generally speaking, they're going to like his results. And so all he has to do at this point is get their attention. So Tyler, if I were brand new, and you must get this question, if I were brand new and say a new agent and say I want to crack into the REO space, what would you do? I'll get you started. Obviously, doing BPOs. Anything beyond that?
Well, yeah, I always ask the agent, because everyone hears REO and sees, oh, look at all these homes, and then it's like, well, there's a lot of great things about REO, and there's a lot of not so great things about REO. I can tell you horror stories about REO, but it comes with the territory. So the first thing is, what my asset managers always ask me is, hey, are you going to be able to carry a float? There's at times where you got to be out $150,000. It's like, whoa, am I the bank, or are you the bank giving me properties? Because you have to carry those expenses, and we're talking utilities, repairs, liens, HOA liens, HOA back pays. There's a lot of different things that you have to carry. So then my first question is, I get this question a lot. I say, hey, are you willing to do this work? And they're like, well, I don't want to do it on your level. It's like, well, no. If an asset manager is going to give you property, just don't think they're going to give you one here and one there. Because if you're going to do it right and you're going to do a good job, you need to be prepared to take on as much as they can give you. Because the minute you say no, they cut you off. You say, oh, okay, I can't take that property.
Let's stop there for a second. So if you're getting in to the business, now fortunately, and please don't lose your train of thought, but you just said like three really important things that I need to underline, so you and I do a great job for the listeners. So when you get started, guys, you got to be willing to take crap. And let's just call it what it is. You're going to get the tough properties. The word for that, generally speaking, is going to be reassignments. So one of the things that, REO, Harris Real Estate University REO students know is you have to be asking for reassignments. A reassignment is essentially an expired listing. But don't call it an expired listing, call it a reassignment. So ask for reassignments. And the second thing I heard him say is generally speaking, you're going to get the bottom of the barrel inventory. So you're not going to get the houses in the perfect neighborhood at the perfect price range that are something you're going to want to, be bragging about to all your friends and relatives. You're going to get stuff that's generally speaking not in your immediate market. You have to earn your way into getting what you want. But it doesn't matter. A listing is a listing, and guess what? They all cash when you go to the escrow closing, don't they? They all pay. Yeah. So you got to expand your mind and think in terms of, well, thank you for the inventory. Let me do a great job getting these sold, and then let's see what else you have for me down the road. That pretty much hit the nail on the head?
Yeah, and I mean, reassignments are huge. I always use reassignments I take those. I use them to my advantage, because if you get a property reassigned, not that you want to dish the dirt on the other agent who couldn't sell it, but I use it for a puff piece. So anytime we get a reassignment, we go in, we look at it, we go, okay, days in the market, 140. What's wrong with the property? What's wrong here? What's wrong here? I go, this is what's wrong. Here's my marketing plan right here. This is what I can do to get it sold. I push as hard as I can, and I'm very, very aggressive on the showings. I call every agent, what's going on? What did you like? What didn't you like? What don't you like about it? What needs to go on? If we need price reductions, I go, hey, send me an email saying it's priced too high. Tell me what your thoughts are, and I give this all to the asset manager to get the property where it needs to be, whether it's the condition, whether it's the commission. Sometimes they give low commissions, or sometimes it's the price. And then when it closes, which it always does much quicker than it's been on the market, I use it as a puff piece. I say, here's the before, here's the after, here's the days on the market before, here's what I did. And then you can send that out as a puff piece to all of your asset managers, or to asset managers you're targeting. So I use it as a huge puff piece, as well for reassignments.
And so something else that Tyler said, guys, that has changed is back, when Tyler started listing assets, you did, well, heck, it was only back maybe 2-3 years, you did have to shoulder a lot of the expenses, but now pretty much all the asset management companies pay the contractors directly and get you reimbursed. So the old days, and those of you who are still having to suffer through shouldering the expense if you're in more of a rural area, I would suggest to you that you ask your asset management company if they can do it themselves, because what we've also found is some of you have been listing assets for a long period of time who have been, unfortunately, paying for the contractors, paying for the cleanouts, paying for the plumber and the electrician to make the houses sellable. Some of you who have been experiencing those expenses and having to, basically pay for them yourself, then get reimbursed from the banks. If you ask the bank if they have property preservation in your marketplace, they're going to go, oh, yeah, we've had it for a while. We just figured you wanted to continue doing it the way you were doing it. Now, if you are in some rural area and you get some asset that needs, as we call it, property preservation yourself, work with your contractors and get them to agree to take 90 days paid. In other words, basically they'll do the work, but they have to agree, because they're going to be getting consistent work from you, that they'll get paid in 90 days opposed to getting paid when the job is completed. That way you can get reimbursed from the bank first. So you guys got to think a little bit out of the box when you're getting out of the gates with the REO space. Heck, any aspect of any business is going to require some sort of creative thinking and some sort of financial investment. So I want to talk about SkySlope. Let's answer a few more of the questions. Julie, anything pop on the webinar that I need to know about?
I'm going through them right now. Give me 1 second here.
No worries. I think I've covered all the questions. All right, so Tyler, great question. What were the biggest challenges you and your team had to overcome in the last 3 years in order to get to where you are today? If you can just, encapsulate it down to 3 big challenges, what would they have been?
Building a system, building a scalable business with systems. So we grew very, very rapidly. Like I said, I wanted to take what every other person was doing and put it on steroids. And when I did that, we got a lot of property. To give you an example, at one point alone, we had over 100 assets just alone with just Litton, one of our clients. And so when you manage that many assets, one, asset managers go, and asset managers, everyone's different, but you have to go, one, they go, can you handle these? Yes. And 2, are you sure you can handle them? Yes. You really have to make sure your systems are in place, and you have to make sure they're 100% in place, because if they're not, one thing slips and then you lose your credibility and they go, oh, he has too much, and they stop giving them to you. I wanted to make sure I can always take on as many properties. They wanted to give me 30 properties tomorrow. I wanted to make sure I had the systems in place, the field runners in place, my staff's in place. We have a system of when a property asset, a brand new assignment comes in, it goes through this filter, this filter, this filter. These are the steps it goes on, and I had to relay that to my team on how important it was in order for us to service our asset managers. So I'd say to build a scalable model was the biggest, my toughest challenge, I would say, just because you don't want to turn business down, and you want to make sure you're going to service your client. And I'm kind of a control freak, and I want to make sure everything's perfect. And if I don't feel it's going to go perfect, I don't do well. So I had to make sure everything was to be perfect, because I don't want my asset managers to think, oh, Tyler's not credible, or he's over-promising and under-delivering. I want to make sure we are delivering and not only meeting the expectation but exceeding it. So I'd say that's number 1. Number 2, put more systems in place. Our biggest thing is to put systems in place. That was our biggest struggle. We're always refining our systems, how we can make them sharper, tighter. When I say systems, people probably go, what do you mean? Checklist. And I sent you a couple of them, Tim, but what I do every day, what my staff does every day, what everyone's daily tasks and roles are, what you do from 8 to 9, when you time block, when your phone's on, when this phone's off, when you're answering emails, because, you can get distracted, the next thing you know, it's 4 o'clock and you're going, what did I get done today? I want to make sure we're really on task. So I don't know if I can give you 3. I'd say that's one big one.
Exactly. Well, here's what I'm hearing you say, though. Accountability, accountability, accountability. I mean, that's really what our REO listing agent is all about. You are accountable. You do have a boss, your asset management company. You do have somebody that's lording over you, whether you're going to continue to get assets from them or not. So, it's interesting, guys. REOs are, for a lot of you, they are the golden ticket. For many of you, you're going to get a few REO relationships, especially this year into next year. And Tyler, don't let me forget to ask you what you're anticipating as far as the influx of REOs. But, guys, the fact is REOs can make you rich. I'm not going to sugarcoat it, and those of you who have been with us a while, you know that I don't puff things up. Bottom line is they can make you rich, but they can also break your heart. because you can get some great relationships. You heard Tyler talk about how basically he made a few strategical errors and potentially lost that Bank of America relationship, which now is Bank of America and Fannie. They're kind of two crown jewels of any asset listing agent's business. But he got back on his feet. He took action. But thing is, guys, right now there's so much opportunity ahead of you. It's so exciting. Short sales, REOs, obviously maintaining cash flow through BPOs. That's where it's at. Don't neglect your centers of influence and past clients. Certainly not suggesting that. But open your mind to the fact, Tyler, here's something funny. We get this question still, which is stunning to me because it's so obvious the answer is it's absolutely not too late. But a lot of agents, because they listen to superstar agents like you, they think it's too late for them to become REO listing agents. So I'll ask you that question.
Never.
You and I haven't prepared. Yeah, well, tell them why it's not.
I can give you a prime example. It's everyone. Okay, I'll tell you this. A lot of REO brokers get, I would say, fat and happy, and that's the problem. It's like the new year, right? You go to the new year, you're at the gym, you're working out, you're like, woo, yeah, you're working out, everything's good. Next thing you know, you miss a day, you miss a week, you miss a month. Next thing you know, you're down at IHOP eating a 5-stack pack of pancakes, right? That's what happens with REO agents. They start out strong and they start out great, and then they slip here, they slip there. Oops, I forgot to do this. Oops, yeah, we didn't. My field runner didn't check this. And asset managers look at that. They see that. They're on a huge metric system. I mean, our goal is always to improve and impress. And so what I do is I go in there and I'll go to any new asset manager and say, hey, my team's here. We're here to serve. We're here to deliver. Throw me a bone. Throw me one. I promise you it'll be a completely different experience from what you're experiencing now. I mean, my goal is always to be the best, and it's always to do what they want, but to put it on steroids or exceed their expectations. And I've said that quite a bit on this interview, but that's the whole key. So prime example, I've been trying to get on with the company very, very hard. I've been very, very following up. How can I call? Come in here.
What company?
PEMCO, HUD Homes.
Okay, so email me after this call, and I'll connect you with, as I do with all of our REO students, another agent. Actually, I have someone IMing me right now who's listening to the interview who actually can hook you up through their connection.
Well, we just got on with them literally on Monday,
well, there you go.
on Tuesday. But that's what I'm saying. It's never too late. And I think, you have to go in there, and everyone is looking for you to show them what you can do that's different. I mean, a lot of these companies want to know, what can you offer me? I had somebody call me up and say, hey, Tyler, what advice can you give me? I said, great, let's role play. So he goes, I'm thinking about calling asset managers. I'm like, great, what are you going to say? Ring, ring, ring. He goes, hi, my name's so-and-so. I go, hi, what's up? And he goes, I'd like to list your properties. I'm like, why? Why do you want to list them? Well, I go, what can you do for me? He goes, well, I can put it in MLS. I'm like, are you the only one with an MLS? Oh, my God. I mean, you have to go prepared. What is going to set you apart from any other agent out there? Why are you going to do better than any other REO agent out there? And if you can show them that, hey, even if you don't have a ton of accounts or a ton of properties, they're looking for someone who's hungry, who's aggressive, and who wants to get the job done. I can prove all that to them, and I show them and illustrate it with some of my marketing pieces, but also with the way that I articulate things, and that's why I think I got on with them. And you can still, there's a lot of companies we're still targeting, a lot of more companies we're trying to get on, but you got to be consistent, and you have to show up where they're going. If they're going to the seminar, you got to go to that seminar. You got to say hi. You got to, hey, be their friend. After time, it will work. That one time when they see a property like, I can't get this thing sold, they're going to go, let's try to give it to Tyler. He's been following up. He's been aggressive. He's been this. He's been that.
That's awesome. And here's what I'm hearing: consistency, taking action. But I want to grind this down just so everybody's clear. So you guys have an interactive, if you want to call it that. In other words, it's being updated and changed at all times. Scorecard. You remember when you were a kid and you were in school and you used to live in fear of something going in your permanent file? Maybe I'm too old. Maybe I'm older than the listeners and they don't remember that. Was
I think you're older than the listeners.
Okay, well, thanks. I probably am. So, all right. So the fact is, by the way, that won't be funny as soon as you turn 30. So here's the fact, guys. There is a permanent file in the REO world amongst the different asset management companies. So if you're listing assets for, say, Green River as an example, great company to get in with. Well, guess what? On ResNet, they have a system, AMP, where they all look at the notes on you. So a Green River agent or a Green River asset manager, they're going to be able to see what the other asset managers inside Green River had to say about you. And if you are sloppy, or if you're down at IHOP having your 5-stack when you're supposed to be doing a property inspection or a cash for keys and you're starting to turn in your things late, or if your BPOs are coming in crappy, or if you're basically asking for too many price reductions, or if your contracts are falling out, if you're having to push contracts from one month to the next, there's like maybe, depending on the company, 12 to 20 different things they score you on. If your score drops, bye-bye. No more assets. That's how it works. It's very cold. It's very analytical. Now, here's a little secret. Hopefully it isn't a secret for many of you. The asset managers themselves are being scored on virtually the same things you're being scored on. So they're bonused, they're hired and fired based on how well you do. So they're holding you accountable because they're being held accountable to the same matrices. So once you let them know that you know how basically they can win or lose, you're going to be their ally. Now, Tyler also brought up something else great. You don't cold these people without knowing what to say. They're busy. They have no time to talk to some agent that's just looking for some Tyler, I remember a few years ago when assets started, this is 07, right, when the assets really started coming out, I remember agents literally were so pissed off because they thought somehow the government should be able to equally parse out the listings, the assets, so every single agent in the country had an equal number of assets. I mean, agents actually believe that. It doesn't work like that, guys. You have to earn it. Sure, there's a little bit of glad-handing and maybe some little politics, but for the most part, the person that takes action and gets results is the person that's going to, guess what, get paid. Welcome to the new reality. And so, Tyler, I know you had a thought. I could just feel it.
Yeah, well, to touch on what you said, I'm glad that you brought it up because, man, me and you, we got to talk more. But anyways, what's really great is you said asset managers have a scorecard on what they have. They have a goal. So what's nice is this is what we did. This is why I would say I'm glad that you brought that up. This is probably what our number one success for REOs was. What we did was I would find out what's your goal, what do you need to do, what it is, how many you need to sell. I would push so hard. My staff gets bonused if an asset closes even on the last day of the month, but if it was scheduled, let's just give you an example. Something that's scheduled to close on February 3rd, my staff, my closing department, they get a bonus if they can get it closed before February. Because I know that, one, it's going to look good for my asset manager, and two, what we do is we do puff pieces. So we'll say after it closes, we'll send all our statistics for January. We'll say, hey, these were all scheduled. We had 9 assets that were scheduled for February. We pushed those to close in January, blah, 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 blah. And my staff gets bonused on that because they push hard. So they're constantly calling. People always say, man, your assistant, she's on it, but golly, she needs to leave me alone. I'm like, nah, her goal is to get it closed because she wants to make that money. She's pushing the lender because all of us know on the buyer's side, these buyer's agents sometimes will just sit back, wait for the lender. My assistant, she's like, I want the lender's number, I want the escrow, I want to do everything. My assistant is like an assistant for these buyer's agents because she's like, oh, you need to order this inspection, you need to order this. She's doing everything because she gets a bonus upon closing early. It's a nice bonus, so that's why she does it. She has an incentive to do it. So it's a win-win for everyone. We get win because we close early, we make our commission check quicker. The asset manager's happy because they're looking good to their boss, and my assistant's happy because she's making a bonus.
Well, it's like we've interviewed guys that own these asset management companies before as part of the Superstar interview series we've been doing for seems like forever now. And somebody said something really, I think, really underlines what we're talking about. He said, if you want to know how you become a successful asset listing agent, for me, you have to treat every single asset like if it were your own. So if you get a call on Sunday during the big game when you're, doesn't matter what's going on, you're having a party at your house, your team is winning, you have 50,000 dependent, who knows what else you got going on in your life, and there's a call from, the Public Utilities Commissioner of the police saying that one of my assets has some problem, I expect you to get on it immediately. So his point was treat every single asset as if it were your own property. And a lot of agents don't do that because they're kind of mentally and emotionally down at the IHOP having the 5-stack, to use your kind of funny story, which I agree with. So listen, guys, we're going to get to the questions in a second. If you have any specific questions, enter them into the webinar. I want to talk about SkySlope. I'm excited about SkySlope. I like what you're doing. Tell me about it. And then guys, pay attention here. Tyler obviously is a top-producing agent, one of the top-producing agents in the country, right? But he also had an opportunity to look for an opportunity inside the industry, and he started SkySlope. It's a very interesting idea. It's not a new idea, but I think he's taken it to a new level. So describe what it is, and then remember on this webinar screen I did include a 30-day free trial.
Awesome. So, yeah, SkySlope, what happened was about 3 years ago, I sold 60 properties, and I had 60 files. And so, you have to save your files for 8 years, or depending on your state, but let's just use California. Well, what happened was I not only had 60 files, my assistants both had a file, so I had 180 files. So you can imagine 180 files plus all the years before, what my garage looked like, upon my storage costs and everything. So not only do I have to save it, the broker had to. So I said, we just need to create a system, because our asset managers would call us, and they'd call us and go, hey, what's going on with this property? And I'd be like, oh, my gosh, I'd have to find the file, and, oh, my God, my assistant was working on it. I was like, I need one central hub. So I looked out there, and I said, what is a great transaction management platform? Where can I put all my files in the cloud, a web-based? And I looked at all the companies out there, and I actually subscribed to them. And I'm like, this is just not what I'm looking for. So I hired some developers. I said, let's just create a platform within my own team. We're going to create it for internal use. And so we started creating it tailored to what I was doing, what I was looking for, what I wanted. And upon that, it started to turn out much better than I thought, and our whole office went on it. And what happened from there was we built out this platform, and I turned it into a company, and now we have literally over 40,000 subscribers.
And, basically what SkySlope does is very similar to what companies like .loop do and things like that, where essentially it does allow you to – is it the storage of the paperwork? Let's give them some more details, because people are going to ask.
Yeah, so it's a transaction management platform along with the e-signature. So what happens is when you can turn in your documents to your broker, you can get them signed by the buyers, the sellers, the other agent. Everything's done in one organized fashion. So give you an example. When right now, if you're a paper office, you have to go into the office to turn in paperwork. Well, what SkySlope does is it reduces your paper consumption to zero. It reduces your time completely, over 6 times the reduction of your time as far as getting signatures on something. So when you turn in paperwork, you don't have to go to the office to turn it in. You can upload it to your broker's organized checklist. They can accept it, reject it. They can leave you notes of why they're rejecting it. All the office documents are there. So it's a great platform for brokers, because what they can do is they can recruit outside the area, because agents don't have to come in anymore. It also is phenomenal for agents because, one, everything's in there, and they can use it with their iPad. So if they're on the road and someone says, hey, what's going on with this property, or send me this, they can pull it up really quick. They can say send. It sends right out from our platform right to the client. Everything's done in one centralized web-based platform.
Well, so from a procedural perspective, though, if you're in the field, as an example, and you decide, your buyer sees a property, let's say you're following the idea that Tyler shared about holding a really hot first-time buyer-type home for sale, and you're sitting there this weekend, someone walks in, they fall in love with it, you literally can basically get the contract submitted without even touching a piece of paper, because you can have, the buyer would do an I agree, agreeing to use digital signatures. In other words, basically a digital signature is legally a signature. That contract then gets faxed to the listing agent. The seller's agent, or if it's a seller or the asset manager, they'll agree to digital signatures as part of the SkySlope system. And then in essence, the whole system, all the transactional paperwork is handled online through emails, and making things much easier, much cleaner, and much faster. So if you're worried about competing for some of these great first-time home buyer type properties that are going to be hitting the market, and that is going to be the hot price range for some years to come, this is a nice little competitive advantage. Everyone's always looking for a little angle. Now, I'll take it to another level. If you're on a listing presentation, this is a nice little listing tool, because you can point out to the sellers that, listen, guys, this is how we do things. This is just, in this marketplace, everyone's got to be a little bit more competitive. This is just one of the things that I've employed. And if they're interviewing anybody else, and the other people don't even bring up the fact that, how contracts and paperwork is passed around, and you've made it a USP, a unique selling proposition, a point of differentiation for yourself, they're going to remember that. So, SkySlope is not expensive either. How much is it?
For agents, we get huge discounts. So we pertain to brokers. So brokers are the ones who want to sign up and get all their agents on it. But for agents, it's only $20 per month per agent. And if you're with a broker, we give you anywhere from $3 to $19. So it could be much lower if you're a broker.
Yeah, so it's a great idea. So, guys, bottom line here is this is an idea that everyone's talked about doing forever. There's a few companies that are doing it. I've interviewed the .loop CEO. Now you're hearing directly from Tyler. Tyler, obviously, I think brings a little bit something extra to it because of the fact that, guess what? He's in the field. He's sold real estate. He's a top producer. And so he is evolving SkySlope with his team as he sees changes needed because of his own real estate practice. So I like that personally. That anyone who's actually been there, done that, obviously and always is going to bring something extra to the table. So Anything else I'm not saying about SkySlope? Can we get these questions?
No, that's pretty much it. I mean, it's built for agents, by agents, and for brokers. Every quarter we do a quarterly release upon the votes of our users. So our users are building this massive, powerful platform, and we're taking all of the votes, saying what are the top items that were voted on, and we're changing them. And we're doing quarterly large releases to tailor it to our clients. So no, that's pretty much all I
points something out. Evie points out something in a question that's valid from Victorville. She said on short sales, the banks, obviously if you're uploading it through Equator, don't accept digital signatures. That is true, and a lot of the banks still require wet signatures. So keep that in mind. That probably at this point, until the banks evolve, you're still dealing primarily with, I'd say, on the buyer side, and then maybe the listing agent has to print it out. But who knows? Just keep this in mind.
Yeah, it's very little. A lot of them have gone. I mean, even Bank of America, one of our REO banks, they didn't accept it, and they accept digital signatures now. So, I mean, a lot of people are moving towards that. It's very little for the amount of sellers out there now, from what I understand.
Somebody reminded me that I needed to get your opinion on what you're anticipating as far as the release of assets this year. Last year around June, July, as I'm sure you will remember, things sort of hit the brakes because of all the legal crap, and it had been happening kind of, there had been one reason or another why the listings the banks have, some people say 6 million, some people say 11 million homes that are at some stage of foreclosure that are headed to become assets if the agents or if the owners aren't smart enough to do short sales first. That really is what it is.
Yeah.
So
it's like short sales. It's like investing. You have to diverse your portfolio. That's all you have to do. I mean, right now, you know that you're not going to be getting a lot of assets in the month of December and November because they're not going to be kicking people out during the holidays. That's just what it is. They don't want to they don't put any more financial. Yeah, it's January. Now they haven't put the release off yet. So, I mean, you have to think about it. They have that moratorium that they're holding on to. The biggest thing is, when are they going to release? That was your question. When are they going to release?
Right.
Nobody has that magic pill, that power of knowing. This, they are going to have to release, but they're not going to release it. This is the problem that I see. They either release them all, right, and we go into a huge, 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 deeper recession, and we get out of this mess earlier, or we trickle them, which just prolongs this recession. So the government's in a no-win situation. But I'll tell you this, REOs are going to be here for a while. Bank-owned homes, HUD homes are going to be here for a while. They're not going anywhere. There's a lot of people defaulting. So all I have to say is, hey, just don't have all your eggs in one basket for REO because it's not guaranteed. You need to diversify. Build up those teams, get agents for buyers to represent the buyers. Spend your time focusing on short sales and HUD and REO homes, and that's what you need to do,
Well, Tyler says diversify, and what we say that at Harrisville State University is spokes, right? So think of an old-fashioned wagon wheel. It has many spokes. The more spokes the wheel has, the stronger it is. Any real estate agent's going to start out generally with 1 or 2 spokes. Maybe it's centers of influence and doing open houses, right? A spoke represents a source of business. And what you have to do to be successful long term is you need to have at least 7 really, really strong spokes. That way, if one spoke starts to fail, say, for example, the banks have some sort of foreclosure moratorium or some Mickey Mouse happens with one of your asset management companies, I got an email yesterday from one of our great students, and he said, well, guess what? This particular company is just, essentially canceled. They put all their assets on hold. In addition to that, things that were in contract, they basically canceled because some legal skirmish going on at this specific asset management company. So things like that happen. It's the nature of the industry nowadays. That's the reason you need multiple spokes. So to answer that question with more detail, keep that in mind, guys. Okay. Monique, you asked a question specific to your situation with regards to trying to get back an REO account, and I think that Tyler and I talked about that with great detail. I don't know if you're a student or not, sorry, but the only thing I can do, a little self-serving with what I say, but you need to join the Agent REO Secrets and get your RSD designation. RSD designation is obviously recognized by all the top asset management companies at this point. You guys know that, so get that designation. We're going to tell you exactly who to call and how to do it. That is what that class is all about. All right, so Ty from Montgomery, Alabama, what are the top 3 things you focus on to receive an asset assignment? Ty, I'm going to assume you haven't listed any assets. And for the sake, we're already 11 minutes over on this call. That is definitely part of the RSD class. There are very specific things that you have to do, and that is something you need to know. That way you don't have to learn on the job. Okay, next, or if you are going to learn on the job, at least have the information ahead of you so you don't screw it up and lose that relationship. Susan asked a question, and I think we answered this, but I'll ask it again in case there's anything that comes to mind, Tyler. what does he offer that sets him apart, I think, in the minds of the asset managers? Is there anything specific that we didn't talk about that you can think of now or thought of after I asked that question originally?
That's me apart from other agents?
Yes, sir.
I sent you that checklist, I believe, the escrow touch points.
Right.
And that's something you're going to want to post. I have for my buyer's agents and then for myself internally for listings, I have a 32-point checklist of items, things that we do. So to give you an example, when we get a new assignment, a note goes out, that first big note that goes out right away, a phone call, and all of my staff says a thank you. We have a video that goes out with it as well. Hey, thanks so much. We appreciate it. We feel like you're part of the family with the Smith team, blah, 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 blah. So a video goes out. So we have a 32-point checklist of a ton of different things that we do for both the buyer side and the seller side, and then also for the REO seller side. So this is a whole nother 45-minute conversation, but what I'll do is maybe we can do a follow-up call, Tim, or I can send you the checklist and you can post them to the blog, because those are the items, and they really do set myself apart. And I sent those to you guys, and a lot of asset managers are probably going to be getting the same stuff here soon, but they are phenomenal pieces, and I'm all about sharing. I'm all about giving out new ideas because it just makes me want to make up and create brand new ideas. So those are just some of the touch points. It's a huge checklist. You saw it.
It does.
Yeah.
Well, but that goes back to, by the way, what one of your motivators is with regards to creating pressure. So I appreciate that. So you want to keep yourself frosty. That's what the Marines say. All right. So I'm looking through more of the questions. Kathleen, I've seen his business plan. The real estate treasure map really does cover all the bases, so you don't need to be seeking out any additional 17-page business plan that we have as the real estate treasure map does really cover all the bases. So just check that out and get it completely filled out. Let's see. I'm going to hit refresh, guys. If you have any other questions for Tyler. Lane asks, you talk about having a scalable, repeatable model. What tools do you implement to ensure that you have that'll happen? I think we answered that just to save time. That is what he's talking about with regards to his checklist. Again, guys, sorry for sounding self-serving. I try to avoid this on these interviews, but that is what you get as part of the RSD class. We give you the checklist. We give you the flow. We tell you what to do. We tell you what to say. Tyler talked before about the scripts when calling new asset managers. We give you the scripts. You guys who are students who are listening to this now or in replay, you got to use the information we give you because it's the best of the best, and we are evidence no more than who our superstar interviews are. Number one Keller Williams agent, number one RE/MAX agent, number one Century 21 agent, number one Prudential agent. They use our stuff, guys, and by the way, sometimes they use theirs. So anything we can do to get you guys on the leading edge. All right. Okay, good. So no more new questions. I'm not going to hit refresh again. I'm going to end with one question that sometimes I use, Tyler, and I'm interested in what you have to answer, how you're going to answer this, rather. Why you? What makes you so special? In this toughest economy, in the history of the United States, that's how it's historically going to be remembered, a deeper recession, which is definitely a depression. In the worst real estate market, in the worst industry, real estate, to be in, you're well on your way to making yourself a multimillionaire. What makes you so special?
I get asked this a lot, and it's always the same answer. I'm not only a sponge, but I apply what I learn. I'm a student to knowledge. So a lot of people go out and read a book or listen to something. Everyone will listen to this seminar that we're holding right here, this call, and they'll go home and they'll go to back to their normal lives, and they won't take anything and put it into action. And I think that's the biggest failure, and that's what I don't do. If I get a piece of information, I take it, I run with it as far as I can run. So if somebody says, hey, this is what you should do, I'm calling that person. If someone says, hey, you need to knock this door, I'm going and knocking that door. So one, I'm a sponge to information, but two, I'm a huge applier, and it's a two-step process. You have to apply it. If you don't, you're going to what? You're always going to, prepare to start but never start. You don't have to start to be good, but you don't have to be good to start, but you have to start to be good. So I'd say that's why me, I guess.
It's the taking action. It's following with blind faith. This is what I'm translating you in what you just said into bullet points. You take action. You obviously seek out the best information, so you're sure that the actions that you're taking are based on, the right sources of information. Then you implement. And you follow on blind faith. But the biggest thing, Tyler, and this is something that's true, I'm reading Steve Jobs' biography right now. Any biography, anything you've ever read about anybody, Really, the bottom line is what makes them different from everybody else is the fact that they're willing to take action. That's it. You're hearing it from Tyler. You hear it from everyone else we interview. I don't care where you go, who you pay attention to, they take action. They spend more time doing and less time thinking about doing, less time planning. So many people, not just agents, but obviously we pick on agents because that's our space, but so many people get ready to get started, never get anything done. And then you go broke. Right. And, you overanalyze, well, why am I not taking action? I'm not motivated. I don't feel like it. I don't have enough good information. I need a better business plan. So many of you say that. You know what? And man, do I get a lot of haters for using this word, but it is so true. You're just being lazy. That's the bottom line. Okay, there's no sense in pandering, using all these other words to try to make you feel better for being lazy. You're just being lazy. If you have kids and they're being lazy, they're not getting their chores done, are you going to sit around and talk to them about their motivation for cleaning their room? Are you going to do that? Of course not. If you had a boss, if there's somebody lording over you right now to make sure you do your job every single day and you didn't get it done or you did a crappy job getting it done, are they going to sit there and hold your hand and say, okay, I'm sorry, Tyler. I'm sorry that you didn't do your job and it affected everybody else in the company. Let's talk about your motivation. No, they're going to say, get your act together or you're fired. Okay? Because in real estate, we don't have that. We have nobody that will fire us. Matter of fact, a lot of office managers and brokers actually pander to agents because they're so fearful of having to go out there and recruit more. The bottom line, guys, is this is the best industry to be in. Real estate is an amazing business to make your fortune, to have the lifestyle that you want. But you got to be willing to take action. So, Tyler, I really appreciate our interview today. Really appreciate getting to know you. You're a great guy. And I'm very, very excited to see what you do at SkySlope. I have a feeling that it's going to be a really terrific company, really big company. It already is a great company. And then when you sell it and make $1 trillion, make sure you take Julie and I out to the South Caribbean with you so we can sit around on your yacht and talk about the old days. Got it?
All right.
All right, cool. All right, anything else, Tyler, you want to say as we wrap up? Any other way, like mention, for example, how they can get hold of you. Do not give your phone number. I would suggest you give your email. So for referrals and things of that nature.
Email me at, the website's called Tyler Sells, TYLERSELLS.net. You can also email me at Tyler, TYLER, at TylerSells.net. My staff gets all my emails. So if you're looking for extra curriculum or materials, we have a package that we send out to people just because we get a lot of recognition just from the 30 under 30 in the Wall Street Journal. So we're there. We can send you guys some goodies, and you just have to shoot us an email. So they're probably going to be inundated now.
Well, they'll be inundated over time. These interviews live forever on the net, and I share them all the time. Yeah. People download them. All right, perfect. Great. So, Tyler, listen, I really appreciate you being here, a Harris Real Estate University superstar. Thank you very much for your time today. Everyone else listening, stay tuned. Get ready. Definitely put yourself in a position mentally and emotionally so you can accept the rewards that are out there waiting for you financially. This is your year. Don't wait any longer. If you've been on the fence thinking that, you're going to wait for the clouds to clear and it's going to be like it was back in the day 5 or 6 years ago, that ain't going to happen. This is your market. Make the most of it. Listen to what Tyler said. Listen to what all the other Harris Real Estate University superstars said and what they do. Take action. Have a fantastic weekend. Tyler Smith, thank you for being this week's Harris Real Estate University superstar.
Hey, thank you. Appreciate it.